Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a book review on The Magician's Trilogy by Grossman. The Magicians by Grossman follows Quentin Coldwater, who is obsessed with a series of fantasy novels that take place in a magical land called Fillory. But real life is cold and depressing to Quentin, who dreams of something more, a place where he can be a hero and have a purpose. But one day an unlikely event occurs, and Quentin finds himself unexpectedly admitted to an elite school of magic. Quentin's dreams have come true as he learns to use magic and make friends along the way. His newfound powers lead him down a path of disillusionment, and Quentin eventually learns the truth about the magical land of Fillory, and even his new magical life can be just as dark and depressing as the real world he was trying to escape. So that is the plot summary for the very first book in the Magician's Trilogy. But yeah, this whole review I will be talking about the entirety of the Magician's Trilogy, but yeah, no spoilers. I'm going to do my best to not have any sort of spoilers, but yeah, what I just had for the synopsis is essentially what you need to know about this series heading into it, about a guy going to a school of magic, very much like Harry Potter going to Hogwarts, but yeah, this is like a much more deep and dark and thought-provoking book in a sense, you know, more for adults, people who yeah, you read the Harry Potter books when you were a kid, now you're an adult, and you see the world differently, you know, how you read the Harry Potter books, you read them as a naive, innocent child, so yeah, you can go into the Magician's book, the book series. You've read the Harry Potter series, for instance. Now you're an adult heading into this deeper, darker, depressing world of the magicians that you probably relate far more to than you did to the Harry Potter books. So yeah, the Magician's Trilogy has often been compared to J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter books, being notoriously called the dark version of Harry Potter, where there's cursing and nudity and sex and magic and drugs and all of that. So yeah, the Magician's Trilogy. What to say? Yeah, guys, I have a lot to say, and I'm a little worried my thoughts are going to come out really scrambled and all over the place, because I do have a lot of thoughts about the trilogy. Some positives, some negatives, but more than anything, it's like I'm really liking this little zone of in-between how I feel about the Magician's books, because part of me likes them, part of me was just really frustrated and annoyed and didn't like them that much. Let's start here. Let's get this out of the way. Prior to me even reading Grossman's The Magician's Trilogy, I watched the sci-fi television series that is based off of these books. And currently, at the time of reviewing this video, Sci-Fi has done what, 5 seasons? God, has it already been 5 seasons of The Magicians, you guys? Or is it 4 seasons? I can't quite remember. We're either in like season 4 or 5 of The Magicians at this point. Either way, that's how far into the show I've gotten before even reading these books. So, I freaking love the sci-fi series, okay? I love the sci-fi series. It's just so witty and clever, and I love the characters, I love the world. So that is my problem that I had heading into the book series, because the book series is not the TV series. Yes, obviously the TV series does a lot of similar things from the books. The TV series has, for the most part, the same exact characters. The characters pretty much have the same personalities, the same sorts of magical powers, and yeah, similar sorts of plots do happen from the TV series that are in the book. So in some ways the TV series is a pretty well done, faithful adaptation of the books, but at the same time I was just reading the books and I was like, there's just something nagging at me that I'm not liking about these books, you know, because I have such a strong, positive love and feeling towards the TV series, and I was just reading the books going, what is it that's nagging at me? What is it that I'm just not enjoying? You know, why is it that I love the TV series but not the books? And I think what it boiled down to for me is that the TV series, what I love about the TV series is that it's an ensemble piece. You know, it's an ensemble cast. It's about the cast and the characters, and it's about the characters. Every character has their own arc and their own story, and it's the characters that I fell in love with more than anything. So I think that's what my problem is with the books. Even though I love the main character of Quentin, the thing is, in the TV series, Quentin, he's not really the star of the show. You know, he is the star of the books, but he's not the star of the show in some ways, since it is more of an ensemble piece. And I think that, like I said, I think that's what my problem was with the books. It was very, very heavily focused on Quentin, and even though I like Quentin in general, I was definitely missing all of the other characters and their stories, because all of the characters, they feature heavily in every single season, every single episode. It's not just Quentin. And yeah, what I quickly discovered about Lev Grossman's books is that, yeah, you're introduced to Quentin, you get introduced to his friend set, but yeah, those characters aren't really in the books that much. And then, yeah, book 2, what happens in book 2, which was kind of a little surprising for me, and I think it's kind of, this might almost seem like a spoiler, but it's not, I'm not intending it to be a spoiler. I think it's something you do kind of really need to know heading into the books, especially if you do love the TV series. Because, yeah, what happens after book 1, because book 1 is essentially Quentin's introduction to the world of magic, him finding out about the magical land of Fillory. We'll talk about Fillory more in a minute. But then, yeah, he graduates in book 1, you guys. You know how in Harry Potter, just to keep with the Harry Potter references, you know how in Harry Potter, it takes him 7 books to graduate from Hogwarts, essentially. I thought Quentin would be at Breakbills, the magic school in this is called Breakbills. I thought Quentin would be at Breakbills for all 3 books, because that's what it is in the TV series, is that they're all still in school. So he essentially graduates Breakbills halfway through book 1. You go through his magical school journey in the first half of the book, and then the second half of the book is everything with Fillory. Like I said, we'll get to Fillory. And then book 2, it's all, book 2 and 3, actually, really. Book 2 and 3, it's all of Quentin's life and his life journey after school, essentially. Him trying to discover himself, learn about himself, learn who he truly is, and develop and grow, essentially grow from a boy to a man and be someone that you like and admire, because he's quite a idiotic character in book 1, and you could be really frustrated with him in book 1. And yeah, so yeah, going back to the characters, what was sitting there frustrating me, since this is all Quentin's story, yeah, book 2 moves on and you don't really get all of those characters you were introduced to back in book 1. You do spend a lot more time with one particular character named Julia, because yeah, Julia is a huge pivotal character in the TV series, and she's in every single season, every single episode. But yeah, she doesn't really even feature quite heavily until book 2. And then yeah, book 3 is another little bit of, now Quentin is closer to being like 30 years old, and yeah, a lot of those other characters are now not in the picture. There's kind of another little set of characters there. So yeah, that's what was frustrating me. I cannot repeat this enough, you guys. It was really just a lot of the character stuff that was frustrating me, that I like I said, I had that really strong, positive love and bias towards the TV series, and the books just weren't really doing it for me, because I was missing all the characters that I really love dearly. Yeah, like I mentioned as well, Quentin graduating from Breakbills in book 1. I was expecting this to be a trilogy, kind of like Harry Potter, with Quentin at school the entire time. And that's what I was kind of, I guess, naively looking forward to as I headed into the series. So yeah, just a combination of little different things there. A combination of me being a little disappointed with the lack of some of my personal favorite characters from the TV series, and also just my disappointment that Quentin's magical journey kind of ended rather abruptly in book 1, and then he moves on to the rest of his life into the real world, essentially. If that makes sense. Am I making sense to you guys? If you've read the books, you probably know what I'm trying to get down to, but yeah, if you've not read the books, this review is probably a little confusing. I'm not making much sense. So yeah, that was definitely my big, huge negatives with this book, was just characters and a lack of world building, I guess. So let me focus a little bit on some of my positives, because I do have some positives and things that I did particularly enjoy about this book. I mean, what I did like about this book series in particular, even though I had issues with the characters for the most part, what I particularly enjoyed was kind of this darker look into a world with magic, if that makes sense. Because, you know, you read things like J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter, you read things like C.S. Lewis's Chronicles of Narnia, you read J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings trilogy, you read books like that, and at the end of the day, those, you know, Narnia, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, at the end of the day, those books are rather positive and uplifting, and you kind of understand the direction everything is taking, you know, from beginning to end in some sense. And yeah, with Lev Grossman's trilogy of it's like he's like, screw it, I'm doing my own thing, and I kind of like that Lev Grossman does his own thing with his world, essentially, with his magical world and what he does with the magical land of Fillory. I like what Lev Grossman was particularly exploring with this trilogy. He was exploring these themes of adulthood, and he was exploring themes of people, you know, of kind of being naive and innocent when you're younger, you know, and then you move on and you find out the truth, the truth, if you will, about the deep, dark, depressing world. And yeah, that's where these characters are at. These characters, you know, these characters aren't Frodo Baggins. They're not the Pevensies. They're not the Harry Potter kids. You know, these characters, they're darker. They're vastly depressed. You know, they're constantly talking about how depressed they are. They're not happy characters at all. And I think that's what a lot of people, when they head into this series, is kind of frustrating and annoying to them. Because whenever I do read reviews about this trilogy, a lot of people go on and on about how they don't like these characters, how they can't relate to these characters, that they're too depressing, and why do they want to read a book about depressing characters? But I think that's the point. You know, that's the point of this trilogy, is that these characters are depressed, and they have to realize what is wrong with them, how they need to grow and mature from that, I suppose, and how they become better people by the trilogy's conclusion, I guess. If that makes sense. So yeah, Lev Grossman, he definitely explores some darker, more mature themes. Lev Grossman, at the end of the day, with this whole trilogy, I think what he was trying to do was trying to subvert your expectations when it comes to the fantasy genre. He was really trying to go in a different direction in some ways. I mean, yes, he does give this whole world, you know, he gives magic this sense of wonderment, and he has this sense of adventure that the characters are going on. But he's at the end of the day, he still tries to subvert some of those things, and he tries to make this world of the magicians really heavily relying on realism, I suppose. You know, he makes everything rely on realism to make everything feel kind of grounded in some sort of reality, even with all the magical crazy stuff going on. And you know how, like, in something like Harry Potter, for instance, you know, the kids, they'll use a wand, they'll say a funny little spell to or an enchantment or whatever, and yeah, it's all really light and fun, and that's all great, you know. But yeah, in the magicians, magic isn't just something that's like whimsical and just, you know, just comes out of nowhere. You know, magic comes from a source of inner pain, essentially, is how it's explained in these novels. That you can't be a good magician, you can't even be a great magician unless you have some sort of inner dark pain that you're trying to release, and that's how you produce magic. And I really love the concept of that, what Lev Grossman was doing with that, and it just made the magic really clever and kind of brilliant, I think. And yeah, that the magic has these ties to an individual, you know, an individual, whatever they are feeling, that is the type of magic they can produce, I suppose. And Fillory, let's talk about Fillory. I keep kind of neglecting Fillory to the side. Fillory is also kind of an up and down for me. I liked the idea of Fillory. Fillory is, in the world of the magicians, Fillory actually is a magical land that's in a series of fantasy novels that the character of Quentin loves. Quentin grew up, he read these books about a place called Fillory. These characters would visit Fillory. Very much kind of like the Chronicles of Narnia. The way Fillory is described, it's very much like the Chronicles of Narnia, like a group of kids, they go through like a door and they wind up in a magical place called Fillory, essentially. So yeah, that's what these fantasy novels are that Quentin is reading about. He grew up reading these books. He was obsessed with them. He loved them. He knows all the ins and outs, all the details. And he comes to find out fairly early in the book. So this ain't really a spoiler because this literally kind of happens halfway through the first book. He comes to find out that the magical land of Fillory is actually a real physical place that you can travel to. You can go live in, you can go breathe the air, you can go touch things, you can go interact with people. It is a for real place. It is literally its own magical dimension, if you will. So yeah, imagine that. Imagine if Middle Earth was real. Imagine if you could just walk through a door and you can go to Middle Earth. You know, imagine if you can literally go to Narnia or go to Hogwarts or whatever. So yeah, Quentin finds out that Fillory is real, but yeah, this is where a lot of his disillusionment comes into play, that he finally gets this dream to go to Fillory, be a hero in Fillory, but yeah, there's a lot underneath the surface of Fillory going on that's deeper and darker. And yeah, Fillory does come across as very magical and whimsical and absurd, but yeah, underneath that there is a level of realism as well that Lev Grossman is presenting. So yeah, it is a lot of the trilogy is about Quentin just learning to navigate, you know, his adulthood, essentially, learning that, you know, his innocent, naive dreams and hopes of Fillory, you know, aren't exactly what he was expecting, that there is a lot more going on. Plus, even the author, Christopher Plover, Christopher Plover is like a fictional author in this world who wrote the Fillory books. Yeah, even the character of Christopher Plover, you learn a lot of interesting backstory about that character, that there's some really dark, disturbing things in his background, some things that he has done, especially to some other characters, that, yeah, really drag Quentin down, you know, to really kind of make him go, oh, okay, I see things differently now, you know. It's like, imagine if your favorite author, you know, imagine if you found out your favorite author did something, you know, you find out something about their past and it's like, oh my god, I can't believe that, and it just changes your entire view of them as you read, if you ever read another thing by them again. I haven't talked about kind of the trilogy as a whole, and I guess the direction it took and what I liked about it. Well, for starters, the trilogy, even though I had a lot of problems with it, I had a lot of problems with the characters, because the characters could be rather unlikable on occasion, but I kind of moved past that, because I quickly realized, especially by the time I got to the final book in the trilogy, I quickly realized, okay, the characters were unlikable in the first book for a specific reason, because you have to grow to like them. You're not really meant to like the characters in the first book. You kind of do find them irritating and annoying. You kind of want to roll your eyes at them about some of their stupidity. You quickly kind of need to grasp onto that you're not going to like the characters in the first book. With the second book, you're going to start warming up to them a little bit, and then I think by the third book, if you make it that far in the trilogy, I personally really found myself loving the characters and really rooting for them and not wanting terrible things to happen to them. So I think the trilogy, it gets progressively better and better and better as you progress through it. The first book is it's okay. The second book is quite a bit better, and then the third book, I really love the third book. You guys, I found myself just really in awe of the third book and the things Lev Grossman was doing. And I feel like just Lev Grossman's writing, I didn't look up to see how experienced an author Lev Grossman is. If he wrote books prior to The Magicians, I'm not really quite sure. I don't know. But the thing is, even Lev Grossman as an author, I found that his writing was getting progressively better with each book as well. Like, I felt like I could read his confidence better. You know, like, I felt like in the first book, he almost felt like he was forcing things, and he was forcing certain type of situations just to be like, oh, look, this is like a dark, sexy version of Harry Potter, you know? It's like, I felt like book one, he was really forcing things like that just didn't seem to come naturally to the narrative. But then, yeah, book two, I felt like he focused a little better, and then by book three, I really felt like Lev Grossman had a very good handle on the world, on the characters, and he kind of knew what he was doing, you know? So yeah, I think even him as a writer, I felt like you can feel and see and read that confidence and that progression with the narrative. So that was good. I really liked that. And even though I would have problems with especially that first book and bits and pieces of the second book, even though I would have problems, the thing is, I never felt like the series was boring. You know, I mean, that's the good thing. Even though there were times I was kind of struggling, what I was struggling with was just characters and narrative. At least things were never dull or boring. I do feel like things were entertaining, and I was definitely along for the ride. I was definitely along for the adventure that these characters were experiencing and going through. And yeah, in general, I liked all the interactions the characters were having together. I really liked the world of Fillory and kind of Lev Grossman's screw it mentality when it came to Fillory, because it's like I'm not even gonna bother with world building. You know, especially with like books 2 and 3, you do get that sense from Lev Grossman, like, I'm not even going to bother with world building. I don't care. This is my fantasy world. The characters and the places of Fillory are just going to be absurd and wild and just like, what the hell is that, you know? He doesn't bother to explain much of things going on in Fillory, and I kind of liked that mentality he was taking, that screw it mentality. Because yeah, you read things, especially like George R.R. Martin's Song of Ice and Fire series, you guys. That world is just so dense. George R.R. Martin knows all the ins and outs of Westeros, and yeah, it's like Lev Grossman, he takes like this total other approach when it comes to Fillory, like you don't need to know all the ins and outs of this world. There's going to be little corners of the world that are mysterious, and there's going to be things that are really absurd, but that's okay, just go with it. And I kind of like that mentality he took, because that's kind of the mentality you do have to take with the trilogy, because some things can get really wild and crazy and absurd, and it's like, what? And you have a hard time wrapping your head around it, but you just gotta go with the flow, and I think you enjoy it much better that way. So you guys, that's it for my book review on the Magicians Trilogy. Like I mentioned at the start of this review, my thoughts are a little scattered and my thoughts are kind of all over the place, because there's elements of the trilogy that I enjoyed, elements that I found a little frustrating, but yeah, more than anything, I was kind of just right there in the middle with loving and hating the series. It's like, even doing this review right now, I'm still not entirely positive how I ultimately feel about the trilogy. You know what I mean? I'm still just not entirely sure of my feelings. But yeah, I gave the entire trilogy 3 stars, essentially, on Goodreads. Each book that I rated, I gave 3 stars. So that's kind of where I placed the series. You know, out of 5 stars, a solid 3-star rating for the entire trilogy. And yeah, I mean, it's up to you as a reader, because on Goodreads, there's the people who freaking love this trilogy. There's the people who despise it, find it despicable, and all opinions are valid. You know, all opinions are valid. Readers read things in different ways. They take different things out of the trilogy. Because yeah, for me, I mean, I was looking at different types of things. I was looking at themes and messages. That's what I particularly was latching onto and connecting personally more than anything. Whereas other people really kind of get latched onto the characters and either love them or hate them, and that either destroys or makes the series better. It just depends. Seriously, the reviews, you need to read reviews for this trilogy, you guys, because you're either going to be disappointed or whatever. You know, you're going to head into this and be like, oh my god, I hate these, or oh, I love these. So, you guys, that's it for this rather scattered review of Lev Grossman's The Magician's trilogy. Overall, I liked it. It was fine, but I definitely do prefer the TV series. It is much, much better, yeah, guys. So that is it for this review, you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye, guys.